Hi, Christine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Gabrielle. Can you see the slide, the whole slide?
Yes. And
Okay,
can you
great.
advance it to the next slide so we know it's moving?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I got it. Very good.
We're going to start again. Okay.
Good.
There we go.
Great. All right. So it's 7 o'clock now. From my screen, I don't see any attendees who have joined. Thank you for joining the Preventive Health webinar series on digestive wellness. What has gut to do with the brain and health, and alternatives to colonoscopy? This evening we are presenting part 2 of the series, Practical Applications to Heal Your Gut. And we are aware that some of you have listened to the webinar number 1, but many of you are new to this series. So I wanted to highlight that we're going to cover some of the things that we did cover in part 1. We also have 2 offers that will be coming up during the webinar. And we are having a drawing of a guest right after we finish the question and answer period. So stay tuned until 8:15 if you want to be one of the persons who will be drawn out of the pool of attendees. So with that, let's get started. So tonight, we are fortunate to have you, Christine. It's wonderful to have you back, and let me introduce Christine Rosche to you. Christine is a digestive health expert and clinical nutritionist. Christine's background includes 25 years in healthcare, including 10 years at Stanford Medical Center. She has studied and worked with the leading physicians in preventative health in Europe and in the United States. And she brings to us the latest information on how to keep your digestive system healthy and vital. She's also the author of 2 books and has worked and taught at Stanford Medical Center and at clinics nationwide. Oh. Hello? Christine, are you there? Oh, she's not.
Unmuted. Okay, somehow I was muted. I'm sorry.
I can hear you now, Christine. And welcome,
okay,
Christine, to our webinar.
Yes, good evening, Gabrielle, and everyone listening tonight and to the recording.
Yes. And so let me just finish the introduction. So you maintain a private practice in Palo Alto, and you also work nationwide via Skype and telephone. Your specialties include functional digestive testing, alternatives to colonoscopy, heartburn, constipation, IBS, colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcers, diarrhea, food sensitivities, and gluten intolerance. Welcome, Christine.
Good evening, Gabrielle, and everyone listening tonight and to the recording.
Christine, can you summarize for us the key points of what we learned in webinar 1 in July?
We were talking about why the healthy gut is absolutely a key to health. What the most important thing is in terms of the gut is absolutely crucial, why it's so important to the health of disease. And as Hippocrates appropriately said, all diseases begin in the gut. So what does gut have to do with brains and our overall health? And it has to do with everything. And I want to just say that in 21st century functional medicine, I'm putting up a slide right now of the functional medicine tree. And it shows us, if you can imagine, it's in the old medicine, the 20th century medicine, what we were looking at was all of these organ systems, and we just examined a tiny leaf. So, for example, if you had an imbalance you know, if you had pain in your body, you would go here to just one of the circles. Or if you had cardiology, so the doctor stood on a ladder and examined one tiny leaf. In the new 21st century system we're going to talk about that my webinar is based on, if symptoms appear in one area, they're all related to also what's happening in other areas of the tree and to the root of the tree, and that there are antecedents and triggers and mediators and predispositions, and that the roots is the primary area where we see the influence of some of the effects of the health of every part of our body being affected by the digestive system. So everything is connected, and basically what we're looking at is the body as an integrated ecosystem of symptoms appearing in one area can be causing imbalances in an entirely different system. So if you have allergies or asthma, or your skin is bad, or you're not sleeping well, you have brain fog, you can't focus, you struggle with an autoimmune disease, the reason may be because your gut is unhealthy. This may be true even if you have never experienced any digestive complaints. And today, digestive issues account for more than 100 million doctor visits and billions in healthcare annual. Gut problems cause disease far beyond the gut.
Is this why so many people who have been suffering for years from a host of different symptoms that doctors can't seem to heal have now success in turning around these long-standing problems once they address the underlying cause, their digestive health and their digestive ecosystem?
Yes, the doctors, you know, in the past looked for, like, if you had asthma, it was a lung problem. If you had acne, it's a skin problem. So we look at very small piece and not the whole puzzle. So the approach of defining according to this functional medicine tree, it works with the current epidemic of inflammation and lifestyle-related diseases. It's looking at an integrated whole.
So when we look at the digestive health, we really do have to look at everything and how it relates together.
Yes, and according to Dr. Rau of the Paracelsus Clinic in Switzerland, whom I have studied with for many years, without good intestinal health, you do not have good immunity. His research found a clear correlation between healthy gut bacteria and the absence of cancer or degenerative disease in the body. Depression and a majority of mental disorders originated with an imbalance in the gut or digestive system, and the gut regulates the acid-base metabolism. The gut is the main hormone producer of serotonin and dopamine, which are key brain chemicals. The happiness hormones are produced by the gut, and the gut contains 80% of our immune system cells. So he said it influences the production of hormones and is the underlying cause of all autoimmune disease such as MS, lupus, Hashimoto thyroiditis, and many others.
And the gut also influences and regulates our unconscious nervous system.
Yes.
So it sounds like if our gut is not balanced and healthy, every organ of our body, all aspects of health, physical, mental, and emotional health are affected.
That's right, and most people really don't know what a happy and healthy gut is, let alone how tremendously vital and healthy their body can feel with a healthy digestive system. So I just want to mention that the digestive system is composed of many different elements. And it's like a miracle. So in the first webinar, which we will also send to all of you, you know, we went through the digestive system talking about that it doesn't just start in the stomach. It starts in the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, you know, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and colon, and includes all the other organs like pancreas and liver. And we just talked about it being a 16 to 23-foot tube that turns food into molecules that our cells use for energy, for maintenance, for growth, repair, and detox, and that it helps run our metabolism and protects us from infections and foreign substances that come in on our food. So to be healthy, you must be able to digest food, break them down, and absorb the food properly, take that through the intestinal lining and into the bloodstream and assimilate nutrients into the cells and eliminate waste products.
Now, I can imagine that each part of this digestive system can break down, causing problems in the rest of it.
That's right. Our digestive system is like an irrigation system, a large source of water that gets narrower and narrower, finally getting water to each tiny portion of a field. If the water becomes blocked upstream, the plants wither and die. So in the body, in our bodies, the unblocked flow of nutrients that are fully digested is crucial for a digestive and whole body health. The cells use the raw material from food for growth and repair. If our digestive health is compromised, our cells lose the capacity to function fully. For example, people with a lot of intestinal gas and bloating, I know many of the listeners have commented that they want to hear about that, are often fermenting their food rather than digesting it. Heartburn and acid reflux can indicate insufficient stomach acid and digestive enzymes. Food sensitivities and difficulties with absorption can lead to fatigue, skin issues, brain fog, mental agitation, and headaches, and constipation, diarrhea are problems of elimination. And also gut permeability can cause gut and systemic inflammation as the food particles, bacteria and viruses can pass through the permeable membranes into the bloodstream and create an allergic reaction.
So absorption and elimination problems of the digestive system affect other systems and organs of our body. Can you share more about this?
Yes, like how does the gut affect our brain? I'm putting up a slide now about the many symptoms of gut-brain imbalance. And it's very clear now that when you look at the next slide in the brain-gut axis, that brain symptoms such as brain fog, depression, poor memory, inability to focus and learn is directly related to gut symptoms of constipation, bloating, abnormal transit time, abnormal mobility. So basically, the research all shows that fatigue, depression originates in the gut, and they found that a 6-year study of 4,000 people found that 75% of patients still had at least 5 symptoms of depression after being on all of these medications. And that included sadness, insomnia, and even suicidal thoughts. So the reason why the antidepressants did not help is because depression is a full body experience. It goes hand in hand with the stomach, the nervous system, and is directly affected by our second brain, which lies in the gut. So 95% of your serotonin and brain chemicals are made in the gut. And if there is an imbalance there, then some of these things I'm showing here on the slide can occur. And this is just a reminder that it sounds crazy, but there's a real connection here between the gut and the brain. And it's very important for people to really appreciate the connection and be aware of it. Yeah. So here again are studies of anxiety and depression in people with GI diseases, how prominent that is. And also the next part is about inflammation and depression. And you will find more details on this when you listen to webinar number 1. But it's important for the listeners to know that the pro-inflammatory cytokines are directly related to that neurotransmitter metabolism, and which is affected entirely by the gut, and especially by the gut bacteria, which we're going to be discussing. And in autism, there's significant influence of digestive imbalances and digestive issues in children and adults with autism. And also they found that teenagers with mental disorders oftentimes before these diagnoses, they already had celiac disease or some kind of a GI disease. So all of this is showing you that migraine, fibromyalgia, depression, and irritable bowel syndrome is directly related by a large number of research studies. There's a lot of connections with schizophrenia, major depression, and panic disorder, and with gut issues. And so how does your gut affect your brain? And we know that the enteric nervous system is tucked away in the lining of the stomach, esophagus, small intestine, and colon, and it has its own set of neurotransmitters, and it has the ability to learn and remember. So the brain and the enteric nervous system are connected by the vagus nerve, and they're in constant communication. So we know how the gut and brain is such a key factor when you have butterflies in your stomach, or you have an anxiety in your stomach. What goes on in the gut has a direct impact on the brain and the entire nervous system.
Now, you also told me that the digestive system is connected to our immune system.
Yes, 80% of our T cells, lymph, immune system cells lay in the intestinal membrane. So millions of little lymph follicles are the carriers of the immune system. Like in army, the lymph cells control the bacteria and keep the body healthy. So cancer has a major immune deficiency component, which has been verified with thousands of cancer patients at the Rau Clinic in Switzerland and worldwide, that there are no cancer patients with a healthy gut flora. All cancer patients have significant gut flora, digestive bacteria deficiencies and imbalances. People with MS, cancer, colitis, and Crohn's all have stool bacteria that is 100th or 1,000th of what they should have. Newly diagnosed cancer patients, and they just don't have adequate bacteria, so they can't really fight the battle as successfully. So in order for your body to recognize and eat the cancer cells, the immune system have to recognize them and go after them. And if the gut bacteria is not adequate, they can become lazy and no longer recognize the cancer cells.
What's this gut bacteria that you are referring to?
I'm going to now go ahead and show you specifically what the gut bacteria is. And we have a great symbiotic harmony with billions of bacteria. You have 10 times more bacteria in your gut than you have cells in your body. And these bacteria comprise 99% of your total amount of DNA in your body. So these healthy bacteria are called our microbiota in our digestive tract. They're in our skin, the eyes, the airways, the blood, the mouth, and the vagina. They're not just in our digestive tract. We each have billions of microbes in our mouth, many billions in our small intestine, and hundreds of trillions in our large intestine, half of the colon's volume. So a healthy digestive system is full of those 500 to 1,000, thousands, trillions of species that amount to 3 pounds of your total body weight. And these bacteria make the vitamins. They regulate the metabolism of cholesterol. They help us to detoxify poisons, maintain a normal pH balance in the stomach, and produce short-chain fatty acids, which reduce inflammation and modulate the immune system. So they're very important in the absorption of the nutrients.
So I can imagine that it's very important to take care of these healthy bacteria so that they can do the job and help us create healthy cells, organs, bones, and blood.
Yes, it's very important. Something we have to pay attention to every day, like brushing our teeth, flossing, bathing, smiling, and laughing. Each day you produce several ounces of these microbes and eliminate several ounces in the stool. The microbiota functions like an organ, and they act as a major part of the immune system. They protect us from microbial and parasitic influences, the effect of drugs, and affect the rate at which we age.
So in a way, these microbiota are the fountains of youth.
A colossal fountain of youth. Imagine a football field. This is your intestinal membranes, and they're covered with bacteria. You have between 500 and 1,000 different types of bacteria, each type having hundreds of different strains. So before birth, we receive pre-digested food from our mother, and our digestive tract is sterile. Babies who are newly born are exposed to bacteria through nursing breast milk. So breastfed infants have increased number of these good lactobacillus and bifidus, and we need to know that the first 2 years of life are critical in establishing our long-term immune response.
So the healthy gut bacteria play another important role in our body. Is that true?
Yes, they sure do. As I was saying earlier, they help us manufacture the vitamins and minerals and absorb our food. They improve the peristalsis, the normal bowel transit time, and we need this bacterial layer to help us to metabolize, to convert fish, olive, and other plant oils into the essential fatty acids our brains and other organs need to function at their highest level of efficiency. So most important, they help us to detoxify environmental toxins and produce anti-tumor and anti-inflammatory factors. And all rhythms of the body are asleep. All functions are affected by these bacteria, including hormone and brain chemical production, and how resistant you will be to electromagnetic exposure. So your microbiotic is your unique fingerprint, different from everyone else's.
I can imagine that there are two sides to these bacteria, a good side and a bad side.
Yes, we call this dysbiosis. It's like a good neighborhood gone bad. It means not living together in harmony. The bad bacterial neighbors have taken over like weeds in your garden, and the good bacteria are no longer able to thrive. It means having an overgrowth of the bad bacteria. The bad neighbors have moved in because there's not enough of the good bacteria. And I'll be talking about the crucial factors that kill off the bacteria. Every single day when we have stress, we're exposed to toxins, we take prescription medication, our good bacteria is killed off. For example, one of my clients was in the hospital a couple of days, and she tested afterwards and found it had wiped out all of her good bacteria, and she was moving into a state of dysbiosis, which is where the bad bacteria produce toxins that trigger the immune system in the gut. And then the brain is alerted to inflammation by the immune system via protein molecules known as cytokines. And in response, the brain releases stress hormones and neurotransmitter levels are altered. So the dysbiosis weakens our ability to protect ourselves from disease-causing microbes. These bad dysbiotic bacteria generate toxins and inflammatory cytokines that are released not just in the gut, but throughout the whole body. Research shows that this dysbiotic bad bacteria is a major contributing cause of arthritis, lupus, the early stage of colon and breast cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, eczema, fibromyalgia, and food sensitivities.
So what causes dysbiosis?
There are several factors that we all encounter. And we have to make sure we go to the health shop often and purchase the special offers for the right bacteria. So what causes that dysbiosis? What causes the imbalances in the gut, which can be manifest many times through bloating, nausea, canker sores, white coating on the tongue, chronic heartburn, diarrhea, abdominal pain, chronic yeast infection. Well, it can be caused many times by a course of antibiotics. Many of you know that you've taken antibiotics, and it's essential to take them if you have a serious infections. But after only 5 days of antibiotics, it takes months to rebalance the gut flora and bring in the good bacteria. Antibiotic means anti-life force, and probiotic is pro-life force. So the antibiotic kills off everything, including the good bacteria in the gut. And you now have a barren terrain which is vulnerable to commensal and bad bacteria. Remember, the bad neighbors can settle in when you don't have a protection. So if every doctor and hospital gave probiotics with the antibiotics, the good bacteria would help the body replenish what was killed off very quickly, and the body would thrive, because as soon as you kill off the bad, when you begin your dosage of antibiotic, you need to start taking the probiotics right away, not just at the end. And we also know in the United States that by the age of 5, the average child has had a course of 6 doses of antibiotics.
Yeah, quick question here, Christine. Do you take the probiotic 12 hours away from the antibiotic? You don't want to take them together, right?
Well, it depends on what type of antibiotic it is. I found that working with many patients in our clinic that we actually, yes, they took the probiotic, let's say they took the antibiotic in the morning and at night, then they took the probiotic at lunchtime. It didn't have to be 12 hours. It was just at a different time.
Yeah, okay, very good. Now, please tell us what causes imbalances in the gut.
Well, the keys are our diet, medications, stress, environmental factors, and toxins. So those are the major factors of digestive imbalance. The poor diet, the standard American diet, the SAD diet is low in fiber, high in added sugar and preservative, which alters the environment in the digestive system. So the diet that is the fast food diet allows the bad bacteria to take over. So it's very important that, you know, we know what we're definitely, this is one of the factors, is where we eat and what we eat is really a key. Medications, anytime that you take even an over-the-counter like Advil, and all types of anti-inflammatories, especially steroids, acid blockers, all prevent the digestive system from doing its job properly. For example, that if you take drugs such as an antacid, I know many of the listeners and clients of mine have said, you know, I have been prescribed Prilosec and I'm taking Tums, and my doctor said I have to be on this for years. I've been on it for years to block my body's acid. Well, it turns out that when you're blocked, your defense is gone. These medications block the good bacteria. They kill them all off. They block the hydrochloric acid, and your hydrochloric acid acts as a first line of defense against microbes. So once you take those medications, the medications are essential if you're in a crisis. I'm all for that. Every physician I work with says, yes, take them a few weeks. If you take it more than a couple of weeks, you start to alter the entire chemistry, and the body is no longer able to produce the good gut flora, and it's no longer able to produce what it needs to protect itself and make the acid you need to break down your food. So you're basically then unable to digest, absorb your food, as well as your immune system is affected from all of these antacids. And we will be talking today about the natural remedies to help replenish your hydrochloric acid in the best way.
Right. Okay, I have heard Dr. Rao say that leaky gut syndrome or intestinal permeability is the key underlying cause of autoimmune disease inflammation.
Yes, Gabrielle, I just want to say that environmental toxins like heavy metals, and if the listeners have heavy metals in their mouth, also damage the lining of the gut permeability, and prevent absorption of nutrients. And food allergies also affect gut permeability. If you're eating foods all the time that you're allergic to, what Dr. Rao said is that leaky gut syndrome is caused actually by the lining being worn away by constant low-grade inflammation. Eating foods that you're not even aware that you're eating can cause that leaky gut, which I'll show in just a moment how that looks, and it's the key underlying cause of autoimmune and brain inflammation. So let's go now to leaky gut. Leaky gut is increased permeability of your intestinal membranes, which occurs when the tight junctions of the intestinal mucosa are compromised and become widened and permeable to large undigested compounds, toxins, and bacteria. This is also known as leaky gut. So contributors are chronic stress, prescription medications, poor diet, inflammation, alcohol, GI infections like H. pylori, parasites, and food poisoning, bacterial overgrowth, the dysbiosis we've talked about, and gluten. So here is a healthy gut movie. And you can see this, Gabrielle, right, how this moves through the tight junctions, and you can see food and other molecules just naturally not really going into the body. It's just, this is a healthy junction of your intestinal wall. Now let's look at the next one, the leaky gut movie. You see how there is already the permeability has occurred. There is already that what has happened is that these food molecules and partially digested matter, bacteria, viruses are not going through the intestinal membrane, which is permeable, into the bloodstream, causing this upregulated immune response and then causing some of these symptoms of leaky gut and autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis especially and Hashimoto's thyroiditis is very much linked, all types of autoimmune with this gut permeability response, which happens when a membrane gets damaged. So if you look at all the symptoms here, some of my clients come in, a woman had severe memory issues and very much anxiety, fatigue, muscle pain, and once we were able to heal that leaky gut, then she was fine. She did no longer have that. And here's a great chart from the Functional Medicine Institute about factors that affect mucosal immunity, which result in intestinal barrier dysfunction. So if you're eating gluten, which we'll talk about soon, we'll talk, drugs, infections, neurotransmitter issues, enzyme, all of that can lead to a breakdown of the mucosa of the tight junction and then lead to permeability increasing, which leads to intestinal barrier dysfunction, food allergy gets even greater, immune system abnormalities, and finally autoimmunity. So there is a major influence on the blood-brain barrier and neuroimmunity. So there's actually, they feel, also the research has shown is that it's not just in the gut, it goes systemic. So we have that gluten and dairy connection, we have infection, and we find that also the brain now has inflammation. It goes into the gut, the skin, the lungs, and the brain. And prolonged exposure to stress can actually induce low-grade inflammation, alter bacteria in the gut, and allow greater microbial transformation. So actually stress-induced intestinal damage is a reality. And it's been shown that between the health of the gut and the health of the brain is a direct connection because it's going from the gut up into the brain and affects the cells of the brain, and that becomes then also a target of autoimmunity. And here's a picture of a leaky gut and what it looks like. And then, alcohol can also cause that intestinal permeability, allowing toxins to leak into the bloodstream. Excessive stress, as I was saying, can cause damage to the lining and disrupt proper digestive functioning. So here are some things that you can do to heal intestinal permeability. Stress reduction, such as relaxation therapies and biofeedback, are very effective. Remove all gluten from your diet. Use, if you have permeability, which I will mention, there is a test that I do in my office that measures whether or not you have it. Use homemade bone broth, gelatin, L-glutamine, vitamin A and zinc, colostrum, probiotics, and fermented foods, and to do an allergy test. So that to heal intestinal permeability, you really need to focus on removing the allergic foods, then replenishing with probiotic and fermented foods, and using some of these, the bone broth and some of the vitamins and minerals. And here's a diagram of some of how decreased brain activity and vagus nerve activity is actually related to intestinal permeability, which then leads to intestinal inflammation. So it's very much connected. And here is the study from 2009, New York Academy of Sciences, about how autoimmunity is directly connected, including type 1 diabetes and celiac disease, to intestinal permeability. So we have all the various systems affected by food sensitivity and infection. So it's not just one area. It leads to malabsorption, malnutrition, bacterial overgrowth, impaired intestinal integrity, has so many areas, just like we talked about the tree. One area of leaky gut affects the entire system and can cause all of these different things happening.
And so you have mentioned that gluten plays an important role in our GI health. How can we find out if I'm gluten sensitive?
What's most important, Gabrielle, is that gluten sensitivity does not mean you have celiac disease. Those are two separate things. People who have celiac disease, which is diagnosed mostly by an intestinal biopsy, are usually very malnourished and have very serious illnesses. Gluten sensitivity can be certainly cause bloating and gas, but you can be more or less have just mild symptoms that you don't understand, like fogginess in the brain, inability to remember, some joint pain. And how you would know that is that I work with the Cyrex lab, which is the leading lab that has a very cost-effective blood test that has 7 different elements. It's not enough just to go off gluten. For a lot of people, it's important to actually take that blood test. And you can do that. I would send the kit to you, and then you take the test, and we talk on Skype, the phone, or in my office about what is your level of sensitivity and how does gluten impact you. And at this time, because of the hybridization of the grains, especially wheat, there is a genetic modification that's going on right now where Dr. Tom O'Brien, who's the national authority on this, said that 99% of Americans in this next year will get severe inflammation in the brain and the gut by eating gluten products more than like 10% of their diet, because he says it's no longer just your own reaction. It's what is being done to the food supply with the GMOs and the hybridization, that the gluten in Europe, for example, is digestible, and people don't get a reaction if they travel around the world. They notice some countries they don't hybridize, they don't process the way we do, but in our country it causes damage to the intestinal wall, leaky gut, inflammation in the brain, and systemic inflammation, as well as other immune reactions. Even in people who have just a slight reaction to gluten, he cautions them to go off of gluten at this time.
I know that when I'm in Europe, I can eat bread and lose weight.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So tell us what testing is being done by medical doctors today to assess the general health of the GI tract.
Yes, I'm just going to go past this slide of gluten sensitivity because you'll have that in the recording, and depression and gluten and brain, is the intestinal villi. So that shows the damage that gluten can do. The villi is the key to absorbing all your nutrients. So now I'm going to talk about the state-of-the-art functional GI testing, the comprehensive digestive stool analysis. Let me start with, in the standard annual medical physical, you receive a stool sample to look at the presence of occult blood coming from your colon. So if that stool sample shows occult blood coming from the inside of the colon, you already have colon cancer. So the way we test in the United States, in the healthcare system, we only look for disease that is end-stage disease. We get a little stool sample and you're looking only for blood from the colon, not how your body is functioning before you get a serious illness. So by the time you get the result, it's very late in the game. You want to know where you're heading. You want to know the direction of a serious problem before it occurs. It's much too late to get a colon cancer result. So this testing is about functional GI testing, looks at years before any disease develops. You would have these imbalances that I'm showing on the slide. And it shows how your body and your GI system are functioning. It assesses the bacteria. It assesses how you're absorbing your food, what enzymes are present and what are missing, and how is your gut immunity score. And it shows and measures inflammation and signs of problems years before they would show up on a colonoscopy.
So when the inflammation shows up in a typical medical test, it really means that the serious problem is already here.
Yes, it means that you already have. Once it shows up, it means you already have inflammatory bowel disease. Colonoscopy is an invasive test. It's very expensive, thousands of dollars, and it shows a disease. It shows, do you have cancer? Do you have, certainly precancerous polyps can be very helpful to take out, but it's always, if inflammation shows up in standard testing or if blood shows up, it means you have a serious disease. The comprehensive digestive stool analysis is non-invasive. You do it in the privacy of your home, picked up by FedEx from your home, and you get all of your results in 2 weeks. It shows all the early markers of gut function before more serious problems happen. It's cost-effective. It identifies the origin of the problem, and it gives specific solutions that last. Lasting, it shows the functioning of every part of your system and tells you what you need to do to improve the functioning before imbalance, symptom, and disease manifest. You could be walking around feeling fine, but you have very low gut immunity and some bad bacterial overgrowth and not even know it. So why not test? You know, why guess when you can test what costly symptoms develop which affect all aspects of your life?
So can you show us some examples on slides as to what these gold standards and well-researched functional tests measure?
Yes, so this is an example of Susan Smith. It shows that she has no growth, NG to the left. It shows her expected beneficial flora should be a 4+ in all numbers, and she has no growth of the lactobacillus and only a 2 of the bifidus, which means she already was compromised in manufacturing her vitamins, fermenting her fibers, digesting proteins and carbs, and in her anti-inflammatory factors. She had a severe overgrowth in 2011 of Klebsiella pneumoniae, and she started to develop joint pains, and the research shows that the dysbiotic flora at a 3+ is pretty serious, that it has a known pathogenic bacteria that causes disease in the GI tract, but also can then go into the body. So rheumatoid arthritis, you know, all of these diseases would have an earlier factor of having this dysbiotic flora. So here she was in 11. What I did was I worked with her and with the physician by giving her the best beneficial flora customized for her picture, and then also giving her antimicrobials to knock out the dysbiotic flora, and look at where she is in 2013. She's come up, she's removed all of the dysbiotic flora. She still has some imbalance, and she still needs to improve, but she has increased her beneficial, and she has basically removed this bad bacteria, which would be the cause of so many health issues. And then also there's yeast overgrowth that you can see in the test, and you also see here's an example of pancreas function. You're going to see all of your digestive enzyme function, digestion, absorption, your inflammation markers. This is a patient who had inflammatory bowel disease. It should be 600 or less. She was at 1180. Lactoferrin was extremely elevated, and she had a secretory IgA of 206 and upregulated immune response. So it's just showing that she has severe inflammation, but even at this stage, it would not show up in a standard test. She can now reverse it and work with natural methods and with very specific protocols that are tested in Europe and all around the world with functional medicine to reverse this. And here are her factors for how she digests her fibers, and also her red blood cells, pH, and occult blood. So the occult blood, which is that blood test I talked about, is only one analyte, one measure out of 50 different things that this functional test measures. And it's very cost effective. So we see that you know, very clearly, and these are some of the studies. You can also test for SIBO, for food allergy, H. pylori, and many other tests that you'll see in your slides, and so on.
So this is amazing that this test really shows the present state of your GI tract, and you don't have to wait until it's all broken down and you have symptoms. And I think that this is wonderful, and I know, Christine, that you're having a special offer that you're bringing with this webinar. And I want to shortly explain this. It's like when you go to Christine's website, that is www.lightlivingprogram, and you can click on the listening button, and it's called Webinar Attendees, and you can click on number 2, and you get an incredible offer of 50% off the price. So the value of $300 is on the functional digestive analysis, and so that is quite a reduction in price. And you get exactly the test, Christine, that you just showed us?
Yes, exactly. So what I'm offering the listeners when this webinar is finished, just go to lightlivingprogram.com, LIGHT-LIVING program, and then just click on webinar attendees, click here, and you will see offer number 2, and you get half off the price, and you get the entire test for such a cost-effective price, and then, you know, I meet with you in 2 weeks to go over all the results with you.
And Christine, that is that people can also reach you by phone or...
Yes, yes, they can call me by phone at 650-856-3151, 856-3151, and they can meet with me on Skype or on the telephone. They do not have to come into my office if they live a distance away.
So it's wonderful to hear that you can find out if you have gluten sensitivity or gut permeability through this functional testing.
Yes, and you can, as the Europeans say, you know, you can find the tendencies early towards imbalance and dis-ease. So you can change the tendencies to balance your gut and your whole body. So many of my clients over the years said, you know, I have a history of degenerative disease in my family. I don't want to get it, but I know my digestion is off. I just know something is wrong. They took the test. 2 weeks later, we went over it. We retested. What's great is we go over the remedies and the things they need to do. It's all customized to you. And then 3 months later, we retest, and 6 months later, we could already see significant changes. I think that was the case also with many people who took this test.
Yes. Now, what can we do to keep our guts and, with that, our brains and bodies as healthy as possible?
Yes, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the SIG-A, which is shown on the test. It's the gut immunity, which is the key anti-inflammation immune modulating molecule. It protects all of the mucosa in the body, and you will get this tested with your stool test. And this patient had a 24 score. You should have at least 51 to 204 of the gut secretory IgA, because it's the first line of defense of the GI mucosa, and elevated levels mean you just have too much immunity going on in the body. So this is central to the functioning of what you're saying. Where can we keep our gut health in our bodies? We need to have a normal immunology in the gut, and this test will tell you what it is. And if you have low immunity, you can take the right probiotics. You can reduce inflammation and increase all of that with the customized probiotics. You can change the overgrowth of yeast by changing the environment and prevent proper nutrient, make sure the nutrients are absorbed properly, replenish good bacteria with probiotics, repair inflammation with plant-based flavonoids, which have healing properties such as quercetin. And the probiotics is one of the things that we can do to keep our guts and our bodies healthy. So what the listeners can do right away is they're very critical. They protect the immune system, digestive health, they make vitamins, and at the same time you repopulate by eating fermented foods and cultured dairy. And the key is it's not effective to just go out and buy a probiotic over the counter, because they're strain specific, and the test will show you what species you have and what species you need. So I'm just giving the listeners specific information here. These are the names of the lab, and you'll have that slide in your recording. That we recommend you rotate the probiotic, you get one that has at least 50 to 100 billion. And once we have your test result, then I find that we alternate every 30 days the probiotic, and it has made such a big difference to customize them. That's really important. We also need to remove the foods that some of the bad organism bacteria thrives on, such as including sugar and white flour, white sugar products. And also we need to eat a balanced diet that's comprised of whole food, high fiber, the right amount of oils, customized, coconut oil, and also the right amount of organic foods and protein, preferably, 100% organic, because of the pesticides really interfere with the gut flora. So, and also be very careful with no sugar or gluten containing foods. And the lining of the digestive tract, this is good news, repairs and replaces itself every 3 to 5 days. So we can experience significant changes once we can work with these customized approaches.
Yes. I'm looking here.
This is the next part is, Gabrielle, you'll talk about in order to receive the gift, the other gift, you know, the first offer.
Yeah. We talked about can you go over the fermented foods? What is that? What should people eat?
Yes, that would be kimchi or sauerkraut is an example. It's the fermented sauerkraut, and kimchi is an example, and I'll have more on the slides for people to see that. So we're going to go over all of the slides now about how to heal, and I'll give some examples of fermented foods.
Okay. Do you want to do that now?
Well, I mentioned the gift first, where, that once I just mentioned the lining, you want to talk about offer number 1.
Yes. So what we have here is that within 48 hours of listening to this program, go to lightlivingprogram.com, and you will see again the button that says Webinar Attendees. Click here, and you see then offer number 1, which is a complimentary digestive evaluation with Christine. And you can have that in conjunction with offer number 2, but it starts really with the complimentary digestive evaluation, which is a value dollar of about $100. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit now, Gabrielle, about the practical applications of what can the listeners do to heal their gut. What are some of the tools? So let's begin. We talked about selecting at least a strain of many different gut bacteria, 50 to 100 billion. And I'll go more into the fermented foods because they support that. So when you take a probiotic, if you eat a cultured dairy product, if you take it with a little bit of non-sugar yogurt, or you're eating it with sauerkraut, fermented sauerkraut or kimchi, it just enhances the probiotic. Let's go into now low stomach acid, because 75% of adults over the age of 60, or even sometimes over the age of 50, have low stomach acid. Antacids are the biggest, most profitable medication in the country. They reduce stomach acid by 90%. You need stomach acid for healthy gut bacteria to flourish and to digest and absorb your food. So if you have burning in your stomach or reflux, chances are not you have too much. You actually have too little stomach acid. So the symptoms are acid reflux, heartburn, frequent belching after eating, excessive feeling of fullness after eating, flatulence and gas, anemia, constipation or diarrhea, nutrient deficiencies. All of that has to do with the role of stomach acid. In this country, what we do is just give Prilosec or Tums or other drugs to suppress the acid. Yes, it's a temporary relief in a crisis, but we don't pay attention to how this is actually killing off all of our stomach acid naturally occurring and helping us from absorbing our nutrients. So it causes are antacids, stress, GI infections, many different drugs. And here is a test the listeners can do to test their stomach acid. You mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in a small glass of cold water. Drink before breakfast. If you belch within 3 minutes, you have enough stomach acid. 3 to 5 minutes. If you belch too long after that, it means you have very low stomach acid. So this is a practical, easy in-home test that you can do to see if you have enough. If you have any burning, another option is do 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar 10 to 15 minutes before your meal. That will help you to start to stimulate the stomach acid. And for many listeners, you can just try, if you're not on an antacid, try taking 1 pill of betaine HCl after a few bites of protein or at the middle of the meal, and see if you do not get any burning, it means you really need it. So you can get HCl and then just take it, beginning or middle of the meat meal. Take it primarily when you eat meat, and you will see how your stomach responds. So that's a really good thing. Now here is about the fermented food. It's fermented pickles, kimchi, raw sauerkraut, and Swedish bitters are excellent stomach acid remedies. So you actually cultivate your body making the right amount of stomach acid by doing the things that we're talking about, and eating some fermented foods, taking hydrochloric acid if you eat a lot of protein, or just take apple cider vinegar at the beginning of a meal. That can make such a difference. And then now what we're going to be talking about too is intestinal transit time, because when Gabrielle said, you know, what happens there? What are the key factors to keep the health of our digestive system? Well, one of them is how quickly it takes for the food to travel from your mouth to the toilet. So the transit time should be around 12 to 24 hours. Longer transit time means that you have all that waste sitting in your body, and it exposes you to waste products and toxins with a longer transit time. So this is a very important factor. A rapid transit time means malabsorption if it's less than 12 hours and loose stools. So check for undigested food in the stool. The test that I was talking about helps you to assess your transit time also. Mix 2 tablespoons of whole white sesame seeds in a glass of water and drink it. Drink it because the seeds will pass through intact. It's a great, simple in-home test to write down day and time, check your stool until you see them, and then calculate how long it took for them to travel. So this is really a key with your transit time, and I think it's essential to know that food is medicine, and the best way you can improve your digestive bacteria, your transit time, your stomach acid is by eating whole, unprocessed food, as many colors as possible, many vegetables, large amount of vegetables, for some fruit, and then a small amount, you know, of 20 to 30%, for some people even 10% of protein or plant-based protein or animal protein, depending on your needs, and take that stomach acid, take the hydrochloride before you do that, but replenishing as food as medicine. That makes the biggest difference. So you're increasing your absorption of minerals, minimizing or eliminating lactose intolerance, and manufacture the vitamins by focusing on that. And here are some practical repairs for the intestinal permeability. When you take zinc or glutamine or essential fatty acids, they basically repair the lining. And when you take the right digestive enzymes, you also repair the lining. So gut restoration has to do with paying attention to your good gut bacteria, your digestive juices. You should facilitate the hydrochloric acid and enzyme production by using natural fermented foods, Swedish bitters, and also the apple cider vinegar and the enzymes, and you restore balance to your gut, and we will see amazing difference in your energy and vitality, mental clarity, brain focus, improved concentration and memory, better sleep, reduced inflammation, improvement your immune system. We've shown it with thousands of people in the last 20 years at the clinic, and the doctors I work with have found that within 6 months, issues with the gut of 5 to 10 years, the average person spent about $20,000 trying to get an answer with no permanent solutions, experience this gut restoration and feel energized and healthy with so much improvement in their health.
So right now we see on the slide the 2 offers that we have. The offer number 1 for a complimentary digestive evaluation that can be by phone or Skype or in the office, which is a value of $100, and a special offer that is the 50% off the comprehensive digestive stool analysis, which is a value of $300. And you go to www.lightlivingprogram.com. The seminar attendees can click here and you will get to the page that shows you the 2 offers. Now, we can do a lot with eating the right food also, but Christine, it's kind of overwhelming in the store to find out, you know, what are the right foods, the right supplements, the right probiotic. And you mentioned before to me that you have a customized intestinal healing and repair kit that you have developed.
Yes, I found that many of my family members and friends had digestive issues, especially with the gut immunity and low secretory IgA, as well as, you know, bad overgrowth of bacteria and inflammation. So I did extensive research in the United States and Europe to find a solution. And after much searching, I developed a customized intestinal healing and repair kit that contains the best of U.S. and European products for the optimal outcome. So by working with this kit that I put together for you, this is for all the listeners, I look at your test results, I look at your whole history and go very much in depth, and I help you uniquely with your customized repair for your flora, for your gut immune system, to lower the inflammation, to help you with the enzymes, the proper digestion. So with really lasting results in a very customized way, I put that together for you. And that kit is also available to everyone on the webinar tonight. If they choose offer number 1 or 2, they have access to this. This is available to them.
Christine, I so much appreciate all the research you have done, and you bring it to us in such a comprehensive form. And then having developed this kit that really addresses my personal needs, cuts down on all the money I would be spending in the store that might be really not addressing what I need. So thank you so much for helping us learn about this GI problem, how to keep it healthy, and what we can do to heal our gut and restore our health and well-being.
Yes, Gabrielle. And do you want to mention something about your own experience?
Yes, I think I did this stool test about 4 or 5 years ago. And then as we started talking about the webinar, I said, you know, let me take this again. And I remember you showing me the comparative results, and I could really see how much I had progressed in the right direction.
Wonderful. Yes, it was a very significant difference from the beginning to now. Yeah.
Is this a good time that we are opening
yes.
the microphone to hear from
some? Let's open now to questions from the listeners.
Yes. And then you also have the special drawing after the period of...
After the question answer, we're going to do the drawing and announce the winner for the drawing.
Okay. Very good. So do you want to open it up, Christine?
Yes. So Joshua, please unmute, have people raise their hand. And just anyone who is on the call, you can ask a question, or Joshua, you can ask a question, Timothy or Gabrielle. You know, we can ask any questions depending on what the listeners, if there is anything.
If any of the listeners have a question, feel free to press the raise a hand button. If you go to the panel that's to the right hand of the screen, it's right under the orange button. If you go down, there's a hand raising button. Feel free to press that and I can unmute you. You're also free to type a question.
As we're waiting for any questions, Christina, it's like, can you give us some examples of cases that you have treated that where people have been truly helped? I was kind of a mild case or moderate case, but know that some people with arthritis or lupus or fibromyalgia who are really suffering for years can be helped with this approach.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Gabrielle. As a matter of fact, you know what one of the listeners said on the last webinar, how important is the test? Steve was asking that, and I said it's very important because you don't know where you are, you know, unless you test. But I will give you a case example of a woman who had had 25 years of constipation. She was in her late 50s. She was on a medication, taking a medication every single day to help her bowels to move. And that medication had some very serious side effects. So basically what she was telling me is she was saying that I don't like the side effects. My brain is so foggy. I don't feel good, but I feel I have to take this to move my bowels. So 25 years constipation. In addition to that, she had really bad overgrowth of bad bacteria in her large and small intestine. And she also had very severe food allergies. She had a situation in terms of, you know, not being able to tolerate food. She said she doesn't know what to do because when she eats things, she feels so distended and so bloated, and she just felt terrible. So one of the things that she was asking me, she had brain fog, she had severe fatigue. She also said that she cannot tolerate most food. She doesn't know what to eat because she feels very fatigued after eating. And so I did the test with her, and I found actually that she had none of the right enzymes to digest her food, and she also had she had hardly any good bacteria, and she had inflammation in her digestive system already, beginning inflammation and food allergy. So basically what happened is that she found herself in a situation where she was really feeling like, you know, I can't go on like this. All I'm doing is popping pills. I feel worse and worse. My stomach doesn't feel good. So after doing the test with her, we identified the specific things that were going on, and then we also had ended up working with a customized protocol. So in only 3 months, she'd had daily headaches, nausea, you know, fatigue, unable to function with her brain. In 3 months of being on the customized protocol, on the right foods, the right probiotics, along with natural remedies to help her digest and absorb her food, she said 80% of her symptoms were gone. She had no more constipation. I mean, within 3 months, she had regular bowel movement. She started to go off the medication. She slept better. Her brain fog was gone. Within 6 months, we retested. She had colonized back some of the bacteria. And then by the end of a year, she had basically taken what she needed to repair her whole system. She said, I have never felt this good in my life. I've got my energy back, my vitality, regular bowel movements. I couldn't function at work. I had constant bloating and pain. So within going from 25 years of issues in 1 year, reversed and repaired with the gut and feeling fantastic.
Now, I think you mentioned also during the webinar that arthritis is also a condition that can be caused by disturbance in the GI tract.
Yes, that's a very good question, Gabrielle, because rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder where the body attacks itself that originates in some of these issues we talked about today. I have seen, actually, we used to have at least, I mean, every month, 10 to 20 people with rheumatoid arthritis and with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is where the immune system attacks itself. So one patient with rheumatoid arthritis was in constant pain. She was on 4 different medications. She had been told she had to be on those for the rest of her life. Very severe onset after the age of 40. Brain fog, constant joint pain, unable to sleep due to the pain, and she started feeling like her life was falling apart. She couldn't function anymore. So we worked with looking at this, the comprehensive test. We saw that basically her immune system was attacking itself because she was eating grains. It turned out that she had a severe allergies to grains, not just gluten, but all types of grains. And those grains caused the permeability. So the permeability test showed that she indeed had a very severe case of leaky gut, which most Hashimoto's thyroiditis and rheumatoid arthritis, you know, it's just her body was attacking itself because the membranes were permeable. She had damaged, the medication was damaging her membranes. The grains were causing inflammation. Her bacteria was completely out. But most importantly, she was causing intestinal inflammation. A fire was burning, and it was causing systemic-wide inflammation. Her body was attacking itself. Within 6 months, what we did first was to repair the leaky gut. We re-inoculated her with the most powerful bacteria for her issue. I gave her the right L-glutamine, the right natural agents. We used 3 different things to help her body, L-glutamine, and then the specific enzymes to help the inflammation to go down, systemic-wide. And we also worked with several different strains of bacteria that reduced the inflammation further. And what I saw, what was so fantastic, what I saw is that all of a sudden her inflammatory markers went down. She went to see her doctor. Her rheumatoid arthritis scores went down. She said, oh my God, it took a year for her to rebalance. I mean, she had been very, very ill. But we took the test again. Her bacteria came back. Her inflammation went down after 6 months, went down 80% after 1 year. Her rheumatoid arthritis score went down at the same time. She was able to actually function again. Her pain started to decrease. Her joints were no longer inflamed. She was in a sense of feeling fantastic. She was no longer having any issues with her joints. After 2 years, she comes to see me every year for the test. She says, I can't believe it. I can move. I can hold my grandchildren. I can write. My scores are gone. I'm off all the meds. She said, it's unbelievable. And this has happened to one arthritis person after the other. We have documented cases of hundreds of arthritis people in our practice that had these kinds of changes. Sometimes it took a few years. Using, again, the joints, they were continuing to build up their gut immunity in the right way, balance the inflammation, and reduce its systemic inflammation went down. And the same with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. We found with people the same thing. We customized the protocol. They had very high scores of attacking the thyroid, could not function with their brain, their thoughts, everything was affected. They had severe issues of depression, insomnia, anxiety. All the neurotransmitters were going crazy because of the inflammation in the brain. After 1 year, the scores went down on the function of the test, and we improved all of the symptoms by healing the gut permeability.
Christine, it's just like you are just such a gift to us. I mean, this took you so many years to put this together and to learn about all these different things. And I know you have been to Europe and throughout the United States, and sometimes it's like it's hard to get a hold of you when you're at the conferences. But
yes,
you are here and people can get to you. I think it's so wonderful that you're offering this to us, and you're bringing us this great product, and your approach of all the things you have distilled throughout your career. So I want to thank you again for putting it together for us and customizing this approach so that we really get an idea how we can become healthy again.
Thank you, Gabrielle. And I want to also congratulate the lucky winner, Christy Peterson, has won a Light Living pre-meal beverage. Congratulations, Christy. Christy is the winner of our drawing, and she can contact me. I'm going to see her, and then I will give you the gift that you're receiving. So this is wonderful.
Great. Well, thank you, Christine, for being with us tonight, and I know that many people will listen to this webinar in the recording, and so we have it on file so that we can have people listen over and over again.
Yes, thank you so much, Gabrielle, and all the listeners, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.